first one of the Levitic. It's always,
Metzorah.
we don't have a mnemonic for that? And Acharimot.
Sigru Pesach. Sigru Pischa. Sigru is Metzorah because he put his hand. Okay? Now. Okay. If you don't know the mnemonic, it's okay. Now, there's one other thing when we decide how to double up Parshiyot, and that is also going to be relevant whether we live in Israel or not. That will also be a factor.
8-day holiday versus
they have to like match up with us. So
Or we have to match up with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we have to split it.
So we double up with a split, and there is this past year.
We had it.
They will have to double up.
I'm sorry. No.
No,
We will
we
double
will
up.
double
We will
up.
double
We double up.
In fact, this year,
It happened though.
this year we doubled. We caused it, but this year what we did, what was strange, what did we do?
We doubled up like
I know,
2
we
weeks
split.
later.
We doubled up. We could have doubled up 2 weeks later, but we didn't. What did we split? We split a Harimot Kedoshim and doubled up Bahar B'Hukotai and left us 5 weeks different when we could have solved the problem earlier.
Well, that was just so that we get Bamidbar.
But you would have done anyway. If you doubled up a Harimot Kedoshim, you were just caught up earlier. Why do we do that? So some poskim disagree with what we did, but we do it. Some poskim say, no, catch up as soon as possible. And in fact, there's sources that's what Hutzarish used to do. The only reason I could say why we didn't catch up as soon as possible and we did Bahar B'Hukotai was because we wanted to demonstrate that the only reason we're doing it is for Shavuot. So we wanted to show, make a show that it's for, since we're doing it l'tzorech Shavuot.
Let's do it as close as possible.
So
We
yeah,
have to describe it
but
in 5 weeks.
but in other words, the problem
care
there
about
is
Israel.
anyone who traveled to Israel in those 5 weeks
Messed up.
was messed up, and they didn't have to be. We could have fixed it earlier.
Why is it so important to have a midbar before Shavuot?
So there's all sorts of.
To give the rabbi a hard time to give the Rash on the Bamidbar. Not an easy one.
I mean, there's all sorts of Dirashah reasons. It's just the way they do it.
Don't ask. It's like Bahrain.
That was the parasha that was written
put
when
some
Adam and Yisrael was born.
Devarim and Nitzavim go with the holiday.
Right.
Each one, it's clear.
Atim, Nisavim, Hayom,
Right,
Kulashim.
and then there's Teshuvah, no, it's Nitzavim.
Right, but Pesach really does it B'tzorah, Tzav. I mean,
No, it does. But oh, it's not. You have things about.
Chacham Shimon read 2
You
years
have it
here
in
in
Bonnet.
Israel. Chacham Shimon was with the Barnatans on their bar mitzvah, and they read 2 parashiot while they were over there.
well, that's what that's what Chacham suggests us to do. If you can have your own minyan, what you should do, and you're in Israel, you should read, and you're missing, read 2 parashiyot, do kohen the whole first pirashah into the second pirashah.
Why?
That's so cool.
That's what Chacham suggests us to do. This way, your aliyat kohen is like everybody else, because aliyat kohen for everyone else is going to be in the second
What you
pirashah.
do is you have your own minyan.
All right, that's what he says to do. He said this a few times. Right? Make aliyat kohen the whole first pirashah and go into the second, and then break your aliyot right.
Did he do that when he came to America?
Maybe that's
Did he do that when he came to America? Oh.
I have no idea.
Kind of
Okay, now
I think it happened to him one time when he catch it up in Israel that he read on Mincha.
it's possible it happens here,
He read the whole parasha on Mincha.
right?
He
So
asked permission.
it could be. So anyway, now
15 minutes.
there's a few more. All right, I'll just give you a few more rules. We're gonna have to save this on for next time, most of it, but we'll start it and we'll just finish because I'm not gonna keep you more than another 5-10 minutes. There's a few other rules to the way the parshiyot work, and look, this is not mathematics. This is just memorizing. We also have 4 parshiyot Hashanah, special parshiyot, which are. Okay.
Zachor, Para.
Well, let's start in order.
Oh, it's Chodesh.
No.
Shkalim.
Shkalim.
Chodesh is last.
Zachor,
Zachor, Para, Chodesh.
All right.
Chodesh is before Nisan.
Now, the mnemonic here, this is in Maran, and a lot of you know it.
Chazpah.
Nice try.
Everybody knows this.
What if he's
What is it?
This one everyone knows, right? It's a
Really?
tu, bu, dad, rebu. Okay.
Sounds French.
Not everyone.
Now, I taught this to my 12th graders last year,
Not the fourth grade.
and they said, oh, what do I need to know this for? It's in the calendar.
Oh, it happened this year.
So I said, I want you to know it anyway. So, this past year was a rebu. Let me tell you what it is first.
Seriously, this is-
Basically, watch. The first letter
Attached calendar.
is the day of the week. That Rosh Chodesh, guys, yeah. And there was a few shuls that made this mistake. There's Rosh Chodesh, Adar, falls on this day of the week. I don't think so. Relax. You'll hear the politics in a second. Yeah, it's okay. I'll tell you who messed up. I'll say the name. It's not a big deal. Okay, Morris, relax. All right. So, if Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbat, right? Then what happens? Then which day is Shikalim? That day.
That day, right?
Okay? Okay? That's called, if Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbat, that day. Then what day will be Zachor? The 8th. Tet Vav is an empty Shabbat. This is the empty Shabbat. So if Rosh Chodesh is on Yom HaShvi'i, Tet Vav B'Chodesh will be the empty Shabbat. And then Kaf Bet will be Para, and Kaf Tet will be a Chodesh. When does Para fall out? Not the Shabbat after Purim, not the Shabbat after Shabbat Zachor, but the Shabbat before HaChodesh. No, HaChodesh is before Rosh Chodesh. Para is the Shabbat before Shabbat HaChodesh. That you have to know that, and then you'll avoid mistakes. Zachor, right now, Bu is if Rosh Chodesh is Adar on Monday. So Shkalim will be in Shabbat, the Shabbat before that. The 6th will be nothing. Yud Gimel will be Zachor. Kaf would be Para, and Kaf Zayin HaChodesh.
Wait, so the first letter is the day of the week, and the second letter
Is the day of the month. The same, almost exact same thing would happen if Rosh Chodesh was on Wednesday. So if Rosh Chodesh on Wednesday, Shkalim would back in Shabbat. The first Shabbat would be the 4th, that would be empty. The 11th would be Zachor. The 18th would be Para. Last year was what we call a funny one. Vabu. When Rosh Chodesh is on Friday, Shkalim jumps into Shabbat. Bet is empty. Tet is Zachor. Yud Vav is empty again, because we're going to have 5 Shabbatot in the month, with only 3 Parshiyot. So, Yud Vav will be empty. Kaf Gimel would be Para. And Rosh Chodesh Nisan will be a Chodesh.
You always have to have more than 8 days to Chodesh. Yeah, okay, well, it's a reason why.
Okay? So this year, a lot of shuls, or not a lot, but a few shuls, when I announced, so I taught my class this, I said this is a dubu view. I said, no, this, you'll sound smart. And then I read this view to them. I said, this year's view. So one kid, is it? Probably one of the brightest kids goes, oh, I don't have to know this. I have calendars. I said, you have to know. Okay. No, I have a calendar, I just know. Turns out that there was a printed calendar, one of the calendars that was widely used, that had Para on Yud Vav. And people followed it. There was more than one shul that actually, in some minyanim, actually read Para on that. Now, we have those on Shaharu, and they read Para. And now, this young boy was in a shul that the rabbi got up in the shul and announced, tomorrow we're reading Para. I mean, Rabbi, tomorrow we're not reading Para. That's what we're talking about. Look at the calendar. this boy who complained, no, that's Babu. Yeah, it's the Shohan. It's the Shohan Aruch. He says, oh, and tomorrow they didn't read Para. This boy saved the shul from reading the wrong Parasha. So you never know. This is actually, as I mentioned to you, Shohan Aruch. It's funny. Oh, Rambam, the Tur, Haronim, the Pra, and we're going to see they all talk about Dinei Ibor. The last stuff that we talk about is in there. Maran, zero. Doesn't touch it. Not in the Bet Yosef. Doesn't touch it. Not in the Shulchan Aruch. Nothing. The only thing he actually does bring is this thing. There's a two that he brings. It's a two bu dad view. So that's another thing to know about Parshiyot. Okay, that's going to be it for tonight. I didn't finish what I want, but we'll finish it tomorrow. Now, I have stuff. I had a really aggressive agenda for tonight. I wanted to finish this and start something else. But listen, this is important that you bring next time. So you won't know what it is. Should I keep it here or should I give it to you?
No, we'll take it.
I'll hold it.
Keep it here, keep it here.
Well, I'm going to keep it here.
Why would you give it to us?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
All right, because I would trust you.
I'm gonna try and use 2 minutes.
Going to be in here, guys.
Oh,
it's
what
going
day
to be in
next
here.
week, Rabbi? You said you're not doing
You
it.
are what? Yeah, I'm gonna tell you a second. Okay, so I will next week. I'm going to finish the whole issue with Parshiyot, which I began trying to run, and then I'm going to give you some abilities and charts that you can calculate everything you just did here with the charge without any knowing any more that.
Without knowing any more.
Yeah.
Any more.
Okay, so yeah, I have to.
Give it to me.
As
let
we
me know
grow,
when the-
I wouldn't do it to you first, but you're going to have to just use charts. The rabbis made charts for you. Some charts are not accurate. I'm going to give you the inaccurate ones well. I'm going to give you accurate ones. I'm going to show you the inaccuracies, and we're going to play with some charts. So next time, we're going to finish the Perashah. I'm going to show you some charts to use, and that will complete, really, what I wanted, my first half of what we want to do. Then, we're going to move on to some more complicated stuff than what we've seen in Talmud. And not the scale. And that's really going to be talking about what we call tikufot. Figuring out the tikufat. Figuring out the equinoxes. Equinoxes. Figure out an equinox without a secular calendar first. Now, and how the Hachamim figured out the equinox. Why did they care about figuring out equinoxes? Well,
Pesach.
for Pesach,
Has to be bad.
for Barech Hanenu, and for Birkat HaHamah. Yeah.
Yeah, 20.
Okay, there are different calculations that our rabbis use to figure out equinoxes, and we use different ones for different things. So we'll talk about it. That's going to take us a lot of time. That's going to take us long. That second piece is going to take us many, many weeks. But what we want to do next week is we want to finish up the Parshiyot, so you'll know right away. You'll keep your calendar and you'll be able to fix it on every Shabbat. You'll be able to know what Parashah we read and which was Mechabad and which wasn't. And it's not a fixed science because, as you saw this past year, we could have done a Harimot Kedushin, we could have done Bahar B'Hokotai, and we do it a certain way for certain reasons. And there were different minhagim also.
Who has the final
In,
say?
it was known in minhag Halak, for example, not to do Hokat Bala, but to do Korah Hokat.
Really?
Tunisians had a funny minhag. They never wanted to split Matot Maseh, ever. So if they ever had a year where Matot and Maseh would be split, they wouldn't read it twice. They would split Mishpatim and Mehaber Platot Maseh.
What do you mean split? Half the parasha?
Yeah, they would split
Is
Mishpatim.
there a class next week?
So next week, I can't make it Tuesday, but I don't want to cancel. So I would ask you. I will cancel if the majority can't make it in one night. But if you can either make it Monday or Wednesday, I'll do either one.
What about Rosh Hashanah?
What?
What?
Your Rosh Hashanah class.
I'm saying I will have to. It'll be on the hashboard of that. I mean, So if not, I will have to discuss.
Can we do Sunday?
Could we do Sun, can you